Jared Stansberry. It's Jared and J-Bone on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, it's J-Bone, Jared and J-Bone. I still don't know all these years or all these episodes at this point. But
All these
did
years?
you turn down your headphones like I told you to?
Well, you started the damn show before I even could talk. I went muted. You didn't even hear me.
Well, no, that's what I said to you. I said, "Are you ready?" And you said yes. And then I said, "I'm gonna start it." And then I said, "Okay, remember to turn down your headphones." And then I
Yeah,
started the show.
and then I said something right after that, like literally a nanosecond right after you said that. And then all of a sudden I hear a boom, 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 boom. My water's shaking on my table and shit.
Oh man, what's up, dude? How's it going? You got moved into your new apartment. The washer and dryer's right next to your bed. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I got a dilemma going on with my apartment. I don't know what to think of it. I'm happy though. I was in a hotel for 16 days straight, so it's
Oh
nice to have
man.
a little different scene.
Yeah, no, that does sound a lot better. Yeah.
Do
I'm
we
glad
show
you're
everyone? Do we
yeah, I
show
was gonna
everyone?
say I feel like you need to show everyone you're gonna get your
Alright.
steps in, dude, walking around
Yep.
in this apartment, going from one end to the other.
We're
I
gonna
don't know if I've
go.
ever seen an apartment this narrow and it's just long.
And before anyone calls me like,
This is good for
there's
the
gonna be
podcast listeners.
yeah, like I'm very grateful to have a place, but this is the longest and narrowest hallway I've ever seen in my life. Like that
That
is
looks like
insane.
that looks like the angle you would have in like a scary movie. Someone's gonna jump out from around that corner.
And then we have two beautiful, like, don't get me wrong, these dryers and washers are very like advanced, but they're my bed right here, and then boom, boom. It's crazy.
This is such like a first apartment out of college, even though, obviously you're playing professional basketball and everything, but this screams first apartment out of college, you know. Just like the most basic of situations.
Oh yeah, and I'm grateful I have a place because I don't have to pay rent and the wolves are taking care of it. That's fucking awesome. But this is a different adventure. I feel like I'm officially like my balls dropped. My balls have dropped. When your washer and dryer is in the same room as your bedroom, your balls drop.
Oh man, I can't. Oh, I'm crying, dude. That's too funny. You excited for your season opener on Saturday? How'd the weekend
Yeah,
in
man.
Chicago go?
It was good. I was actually kind of stressed because I didn't know if I was gonna make the team. And I made the training camp roster, and that alone is, a testament to the work I've put in my whole life. But dude, these dudes at this level, like, people can make fun of the G League all they want, but bro, like, there's a reason why over what is it 45% of people in the NBA now have come from the G League because
Mhm.
they're really invested in this league and people can hoop. Like, I have I think 5 people on my team right now that have been or are currently in the NBA right now. I mean, Wendell Moore just got brought down from the T Wolves. Emmanuel Mudiay, some of you guys remember him. He was a lottery
Mhm.
pick. Like, these dudes are issues. Like PJ Dozier, like another guy that's been in the league for a while. Luca, obviously. You just go down the line. It's a great experience. I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun year.
Man, and then DJ Carton too. Obviously the
DJ
Bettendorf
Carton too,
kid.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, the G League, man, I feel like is one of those things that people uh don't appreciate enough yet. But like in a couple years, people are gonna start to understand, like, oh man, this like is pretty damn close to probably being one of the, if not the second best basketball league in the world, like third or fourth. I mean, or close behind being whatever is ahead of it, like with the Euro League and all that kind of stuff, or with ball over in Spain. But man, just up and down. You see you just look at every G League roster now. I remember, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, like when Monte or those guys were coming through, you would look at their teams and you'd be like, man, who are like some of these guys? And now it's every team you look at are people that you remember or people you recognize from playing college ball. And, I think that is just such a so much more viable option for everybody, coming out of college basketball than what it was a couple years ago, where guys like you who would immediately go overseas can kind of get an opportunity. And again, like, you never know who can see you, or who will see you.
Yeah, and that's why the main reason why I decided not to go overseas. One, if I worked my butt off this summer to get an opportunity like I have with the Wolves and make the team this season, like this experience alone, like even if I just the coach, there's a lot of NBA guys and they decide to play, they're going to play those guys. If they come back down for the Wolves and I don't get a lot of playing time, like this experience alone is something that not a lot of people can say they've ever had. I think that, whether I could decide to continue with basketball these next few years, like I hope so. I mean, but if not, dude, this is, I've only been like a couple weeks in, but this is incredible just to witness the work it takes to get here and everything around it. It's pretty special.
How you shooting on that NBA line?
Dude, it doesn't affect me.
All right.
Of
All right.
of
Hey,
anyone
I'm just checking.
of anyone that has ever made the jump, you would think that I wouldn't have the issue. I ever shot
I
from
didn't
that
think you
distance
had an
anyway.
issue. I was just asking,
No, you're implying.
No, I mean, I just think that, obviously there's an adjustment there. One of the best pieces of like basketball analysis I think I've heard that I think has proven out to be true was when the college line moved from where it was to now where it's at, like at the international line, which was only like, I don't know, a foot and a half or something. It wasn't anything crazy. I asked Bruce Weber when he was coaching at Kansas State. We were at Big 12 Media Day. I asked him what he thought the impact of that would be. And he said he thinks it won't impact good shooters, but the guys who were like average or maybe a little bit above average were going to become mediocre and streaky shooters. And I think if you look all across basketball or all across college basketball and you look at a guy who was maybe like a 38, 39, 40% three-point shooter as like a freshman that year before that happened, and then you go to their sophomore, junior, senior year, like you see that there was not a significant, or that, where they got to where they're shooting like 32, 33, 34%, and you're losing a significant percentage off of that just from that couple feet, So it isn't like, I know it is an adjustment for some people. I was fucking with you, but yeah.
No, I mean that's 100% a fact. I mean, you look at just the consistency it takes to shoot from farther range. Like you when the line gets put back and you just look to the statistics of all the shooters that went through that change that season in college level, even jumping to NBA, their percentages will go down if they're not a good shooter, and their consistency. If they're a good shooter, consistency usually stays the same. And no, I didn't know Coach Weber said that, but that's 100% true.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was just like, I love Bruce Weber. That was one of my favorite coaches, dude. I think he is a way
Yeah.
underappreciated college basketball coach, especially from an X's and O's standpoint. His style doesn't, I think, work at the Power 5 level now because of how he gets a recruiting class in, and then it's keep them 4 or 5 years and develop a team, and then like year one, they might not be very good. But then year 2, 3, 4, you start to see it kind of come together. And then by the time it's year 4, they're really good, winning the league or something like that. And in today's age of college ball, like you just can't really do that, or it's a lot harder to, unless you've got culture that is just so good that you can avoid the transfer portal and not have to play that game and everything.
Don't use that word, please. Not
What?
culture. Don't use
No, I
the
don't
word
even, no, I'm
culture.
just saying, or whatever it is, like whatever you're doing to keep people. Am I wrong? Just being realistic.
No, you're right.
Like you think about like the teams that they had with Dean Wade and Barry Brown and Xavier Sneed and all those guys,
No,
which were
you're
some really good
100%
teams.
right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I just don't like the word culture.
Okay, your environment, whatever environment you're fostering is positive enough that people want to stay there from all kinds of different aspects, whether it's a basketball situation, it's about NIL, whatever it is,
No, that's true. I think coaches use the word culture a little too much, in my opinion.
Oh, it's 100% a sports buzzword for sure, like a coach speak word, But
Yeah.
that was one of my things I always respected about him. But it was unfortunate for him that his last group went through when they did right before the transfer portal and everything, because then he couldn't get another group that could stay together and ultimately got fired. But he's a really good coach. All right, we got a lot to talk about on this episode. First, we're going to talk about Iowa's exhibition win over Truman State. Talk a little bit about their season that officially gets underway next Monday night. We'll talk about Iowa State basketball too. Preview some of that stuff. They open up next Monday as well against IUPUI. What else we got here? The Michigan State fight. Brian Harsin got fired, and we got some more stuff. But all right, let's talk about Iowa. Their win over Truman State. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Truman State would probably finish last in the Big Ten, based on what I'm looking at from these statistics. But what do you think of the Hawkeyes?
Well, I do give you don't know this, but the coach of Truman State actually is Jeff Horner, who was a legendary Iowa Hawkeye player.
Yeah,
and
I didn't mean that. I was just I didn't mean that to
no,
tag on
I didn't know if
State.
you knew that or not.
Yeah,
But
I knew that. Yeah.
they actually have. I think was it last year? They're one of the top teams in D2. They have a really solid squad, and he's done a really good job. He's going to be a head coach in a D1 school fairly soon.
That league that they are in, dude, is no joke.
Yeah.
Like, there are some dudes in that league.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're always good, but Northwest Missouri, I think they play in the same league as them, and they're like a dynasty. I mean, unbelievable at every single season.
But you just look at, like, the different – I think these early games – I hate these early games. I think there's no benefit for the better team, the D1 team. I don't know why. I get it in a sense. It's like a dress rehearsal. But anyway, when you watch these games, you kind of like see the jump that it takes to go from like D2 to D1 basketball. I mean, it is a huge jump just by watching these games. Like, guys are more athletic. Guys can shoot the ball better. They're way more disciplined. You know, they don't turn the ball over. You just go down the line. It's pretty crazy to see now that I'm outside of basketball, college basketball, because I didn't really notice it when I was in there. But dude, it's really crazy how much that jump is from D2 to D1.
Man, they have a lot of guys from Iowa on this team.
They do, yeah.
Guy from Cedar Rapids, Eldridge, Boyden,
Hunter Strait, I played against him. He's a 6-year.
Montezuma. Man, they're small towns too. Eldridge, like guys that went to North Scott, Charles City. Man, yeah. I love to see it. Yeah, they are repping. I love to see it. But what do you think of the Hawkeyes, though? How did you feel like they looked?
I think they looked as expected as they should against an exhibition game team. But for them to be good this year, I think Chris is going to have to average 20-plus points a game. Tony's going to bring his defense. He's going to get turnovers. He's going to rush the pace on the defensive end. And his offense will kind of be sparked from that. But they don't really have that guy this year like Luka or Keegan last year. Just go down the line from years being on end. Joe Wieskamp, Tyler Cook, Isaiah Moss. There's always a lot of scorers on the Iowa team. This year, there is not really that noticeable guy. Obviously, Chris being Keegan's twin brother, Keegan proved himself to be that guy last year, but they're totally different players. So if they want to be great, I think Chris is going to have to average 20 points a game. And defensively, I think they'll be the best defensive team in Fran's era.
What's that backcourt look like? What do you think of some of those guys that have coming back? What was it like practicing against them? How'd you see them coming up, I guess?
Only one I played against AU or with AU, obviously, and Tony. Toussaint, he's a freshman. He played really well. He had 8 assists, 0 turnovers in the game. I think he did a really good job of pushing the pace. It's kind of weird watching Iowa now because obviously me playing there for so long, there's always that shooting guard at the 1 that was able to pull up in transition. This year, they're not going to have that. So I think from that aspect, it's going to be different from Coach McCaffrey's offensive scheme of bringing the ball down and shooting it quick. I think, honestly, they might play a little slower this year because of that aspect, because there's not that dominant scorer on the backcourt. With Keegan being able to shoot the ball inside, or Luka was in the inside this year, it's going to be a little different. So I don't know. I think I think Toussaint will work his way into playing a lot of minutes once he gets down with the pace of the game, because that takes a while. That takes games, that takes mistakes to happen, and he's got to work through those mistakes for him to get those heavy minutes. But I think when that happens, I think he's going to be a really great point guard for the Hawkeyes.
Is Aaron Eulis injured? I'm not.
He got suspended.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't know what the situation was there.
Yeah, he would have been the one. I think that suspension might hurt him a lot more than what more people think. Because if one I mean, being smart in sports, that when an opportunity is taken away from you, another opportunity rises for someone else. And when that person makes the most of that opportunity, it's hard to turn your back on that guy that just did what he did. So I think Toussaint having the game he did, he's going to earn more minutes heavily or slowly and steadily in the future. And if he keeps continuing to improve, then it's going to be hard to keep him off the court.
It's about earning that trust. You know,
Yep.
like that's what I've figured out being around coaches as much as I have, and just now covering a couple different basketball coaches and things. I mean, for as much as anything, they're going to put you out there as much as they trust you. And if they got someone who's showing up and doing their job every night, and it's like, and you can't do that, I mean, I don't know enough about Aaron's situation, but it's like I understand where you're coming from, because coaches want to be able to trust you and know that and rely on you.
Yeah. I think too, this is the first year I kind of alluded to it already, but Toussaint being more a facilitator, I think it will honestly be more beneficial for Chris and Tony and those guys. Tony played the one this last game, but when Toussaint is able to come in and AU once he's back to have being more facilitator, that is going to help Chris a lot to be able to just concentrate on shooting the ball instead of being that playmaker guy that Chris probably should be. But having a facilitator is so important for any scorer on any team. So I think that will be very beneficial once Big Ten play hits as well. Once they play Iowa State, play Duke, all these better teams, that they're going to need that facilitator to have those high assist games, low turnover games.
How do you? This is kind of a off-topic pivot, but how do you feel like Joe Toussaint's going to do at West Virginia coming into the Big 12?
I don't think he could have picked a better school.
I was just going to say, I feel like he picked a pretty perfect spot for his game to go and play for Bob Huggins. Yeah.
I mean, you look at his abilities, his strengths. I mean, his weaknesses, obviously, he's not the best shooter. I mean, he can shoot, but he's more prone to drive the ball and set other people up. So that from that aspect, I mean, that's perfect for West Virginia to have a guy like that to come in and just set guys up and take care of the ball and push the ball. But he's also one of the best.
I was say somebody knows going to want to get after you too.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's going to be a guy that's going to pick up 94 feet. What Coach Huggins wants. He wants a guy like that. That's who he recruits. He's going to be the fastest guy in the gym, the quickest guy in the gym. I mean, he's literally the perfect kind of style of a point guard that he wants. So I see him finding his way into that heavily logged minutes in that system. And I mean, he's earned trust too. I feel like already by any transfer, like playing under Coach McCaffrey, I feel like Coach McCaffrey's pretty respected amongst a lot of coaches in the NCAA. And if he's able to earn a spot there and did what he did, and I thought he had a great career at Iowa, I felt like that was really beneficial for him heading into West Virginia already.
Well, if he gets this guy's trust, he can get anybody's trust, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah, he's as good as you're gonna find, man. He's so much fun to kind of cover too, and be able to go to some of his press conferences and things like that, and just watch him on a nightly basis. I mean, obviously, I don't do it on live, but like watching his teams and things like that. His teams are really tough. Like if you just have an appreciation for gritty basketball, you love Bob Huggins' teams.
I agree. I mean, I think his career stats states for itself. I mean, that's why he's a Hall of Fame coach. And the best thing about it, to go back to Joe Toussaint a little bit, is kind of piggybacks off what you're saying about Coach Huggins. I mean, obviously, Coach Huggins, you recruit great guys to be able to provide to the program, and Joe Toussaint's a guy that will just do whatever Coach says, and I think that that's why it's going to be such a great fit.
Who do you think? I don't know. This is kind of random too. Who do you think of that? But a preseason prediction: who's going to be the best team in the Big Ten this year?
Indiana for sure is my 1. Illinois 2. Michigan 3 is my top 3. 4, 5, and 6 is gonna get a little dicey. I do see Iowa working their way in. I feel like they're gonna be a middle of the pack team. They're gonna be like 8 and 12 to 10 and 10 area. Indiana, though, it's just hard to go against someone overtaking that spot because Indiana proved last year they can do it, and they have all the same guys back, and on top of a really great recruit coming in at the point guard spot as well. So they just need a shooter, man. If they have a shooter, that's a Final Four team. So if Miller Kopp can step up and hit 4 to 5 threes a game, even 3 threes a game, they're a Final Four team in my opinion.
Is Race Thompson your Big Ten Player of the Year, or who?
Trace Jackson.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis. That's what I meant. Sorry, Race Thompson. Iowa State recruited Race Thompson, so for some reason,
Race Thompson is still there too. He's a 6th year.
Oh, so he's on your scholarship plan.
Well, there's a lot of 6 years no one's talking about. Why did everyone talk about my career? And then there's like, Connor's a 6 year, Phillips a 6 year. Like, we got a lot of.
It's because you're the short little white shooter, man. Like that's what happens to everybody. It's just like Phil Forte. Like it seemed like he played forever. Svi Mikhailuk, it seemed like he played forever. It's just that you're just that stereotype.
Wow.
I'm just being honest with you. That's just why it is. People don't like those guys, as we've much discussed on this show.
That's true. But
Keaton Page, he's another one that was around forever. But yeah, go ahead.
But to go back to your question, I think there's no one other than, Chris Murray can take that spot away from Trace Jackson for Player of the Year. Zach Edey has a chance.
He was who I was going to throw out there. What about Zach Edey?
Yeah, Zach Edey has a chance. Illinois, they have a great freshman, Sky Clark, coming in. I think he's going to be probably freshman of the year. I don't know. It's the Big Ten this year is heavily down. It will be. I think they might get only 5 teams in this year.
Wow.
5 to 6 teams in.
Wow.
But that might change if the first 3 weeks of the season tells a lot about how a conference is going to turn out in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people don't realize, I feel like, too. You probably already understand this, but like the Big 12 and like obviously the Big 10 and all the other conferences, the teams are going to cheer for the other teams in the conference at the beginning of the year because they want the conferences to be best as possible comes conference play, more quad 1 wins, more opportunity to go on the road and take a quad 1 win, even if it's a quad 2 win. When you start having quad 3 wins or a lot more quad 3 games, a lot more quad 4 games, your resume is going to be detrimental at the end of the season. So
right.
I think, it's a lot's going to like Iowa playing Iowa State and they go play Duke. Like that's going to be a huge point of the season for Iowa.
In Portland?
They play Duke at Madison Square Garden, and then they turn around and have a 1-day prep for Iowa State.
Oh, wow.
And that's them getting back.
Wow.
They have the late game at 9:30, I think, against Duke. So that means they fly back. They're gonna get back really late. They have 1-day prep, and they turn around.
Oh, okay. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not.
I know what you're doing.
I'm strictly stating a fact here.
You're starting to build it already. You're building
I'm not building anything.
You're building the excuse. It's okay. It's
not an excuse. It's a fact. When you play a 1-day prep, it's going to be a tough. I guarantee you, if Iowa State went in Madison Square Garden and turned around and played Iowa 1 day late, 2 days later, same exact statement's going to be made.
Whatever that Friday is, that next day, this game didn't even matter. It was 1-day prep. Of course, Iowa State won. It was a 1-day prep. I already know how it's going to go.
No.
It might not come from you. You might even tweet at me and say it was 1-day prep, so this doesn't count.
I will never say a game doesn't count. That is just an idiotic statement.
Just reminding everyone, this game was after one day of Brett. Just a reminder to everybody. That's
No,
what
I
the
won't
game.
even say that. I'll say something more along the lines if they do lose that I bet that trip from East Coast back to Iowa took a toll on their bodies and they weren't at their 100% when they played Iowa State. That's something I would say, which is true. It's a fact.
Yeah. I know, it's just funny. I'm just kidding you shit. All right, Iowa State does open their season next week too. I feel like, honestly, we were talking about Joe Toussaint after. I don't remember when he committed or any of those things, but I feel like in hindsight, he's the kind of guy who would have been good on Iowa State's team this year.
Mm.
They're going to end up playing a true freshman at point guard probably most of the time, which I think will be fine. They've got Taman Lipsey, who came from Ames and was obviously such a was such a good player at Ames High and won a state title last year, had triple double in the state championship game. Like, he's a really good player. But I think as a true freshman in the Big 12, you're going to go through bumps. Tyrese Hunter went through a lot of bumps last year too, even though he was obviously such a, good player. And then, had a good year, but I don't know. I don't know if their team's going to score more than like 50 points a game, dude, honestly.
I don't even know what to expect from Iowa State teams because going from a 2-win season to what they did last year, like, how do you even predict?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
And they only have 4 guys back from that team last year.
Right.
Which I
So
think, like, the 4 guys they do have back, I think are good guys to have. That it's like kind of I know you hate the word culture, but your culture setters, your leaders, okay? People who are good leaders in the locker room that I think people can look at and they set a good example for what you want, but also, you don't have Isaiah Brockington back. You don't have Tyrese Hunter back. You do get better on the front court, but I just have no idea. If you ask me right now today who's Iowa State's leading scorer going to be, I would probably say Gabe Kalsher because he's the guy I've seen play the most. But I also don't know how confident I am that Gabe Kalsher is going to be consistent enough to average, 15 or 16 points a game like that you need to be that big time leading scorer on a team that's only going to score that many, like not going to score that many points,
yeah, I would imagine he's gonna have to make that jump. Think about their their team this year. I mean, I don't see anyone having that ability other than him, honestly.
Well, I mean, the other one that I would say I think is going to make a big leap is that Oceanive that they got from
Oh yeah,
St. Bonaventure. He's legit from everything that I've heard. Like, he's the
yeah.
real deal. They feel really confident that their front court is considerably better, you know. But I don't know. Like I said, when you got to play true freshmen in the backcourt, man, that play in that point guard spot, I don't care who it is, you're going to go through lumps in a league like the Big 12, where you just have, you know, nothing against the Big 10, but when you can go and play a Nebraska,
Dude,
or
oh my god,
Minnesota last year, or like whoever, you know,
I hate that argument. I hate it. Nebraska beat Wisconsin on senior night. Or Nebraska, yeah,
bro,
Nebraska. Like, what the
bro.
fuck are we talking about? Any
You're
game you
not gonna
play,
sit here and say this about
any
Nebraska.
game you
How many Big
bro,
Ten games has
Nebraska
Fred
was
Hoiberg won?
good.
How many Big Ten games
Nebraska,
has Fred Hoiberg won?
Nebraska was good at the end of the season. That was one team we did not want to play.
At the end of the season, okay, at the end of the season, they were terrible at the beginning of the season.
Yes, but that doesn't matter. Okay, you say the same thing about fucking. I mean, every team, any team in any league can beat anyone at any given point.
Well, not Iowa State in 2020. They couldn't beat anybody on any given night.
Yeah, they checked out though. That was something I've never seen in my life. Honestly, I've never seen a team check out like Iowa State did.
That team actually had some times where you're like, man, these guys, you can tell they're still trying, where it's like they would show a little bit of life, but every time they showed a little bit of life, it would like fizzle out so quickly, But yeah, that was a tough deal. I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, when you talk about having those teams, like, okay, I think that it's more because the Big Ten is so much bigger, where you got those 4 extra teams. It just makes it like a different dynamic.
It makes
just
it harder.
From the league. I'm just saying, when you got to play everybody twice, like it just is different,
That makes it hard
you
too.
can scout everyone so well when there's only 9 other teams you have to scout.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Everyone knows what everyone's doing in any league. The coaches, like in the Big Ten, like coaches are well known from beforehand where they were coaching at and until they got in the Big Ten. And some of the longer tenure guys, they run the same exact sets, they run the same exact defensive schemes. Everything is all scouted to perfection. Like everyone knows what they're doing. It's all about execution.
Okay, well, it's hard either way to play freshman be a point guard as a freshman. Either way,
I
doesn't matter what
agree.
league you're in,
I
what Power
agree.
5 league you're in.
But
Yeah.
you said in the Big Ten is different, which is not true.
I mean, I just do think it is different because you don't have the double round robin. I think that's different. I just think it's a different dynamic.
How's that
Because
different?
it just is a different dynamic. I just think that it creates a different level for each game when you've got to play each other twice every year.
Yeah, but Big Ten, you're playing teams twice too. It switches
Not
every
every
year.
team, though. Not every team. You don't play
It
every
switches
team.
every year.
But just think about how when you can build up those things, the animosity with people and things like that, because you play them twice every year, you know that they are coming to your house every year. And you got to go to their house every year. It's just different,
We're not doing this about
It's just different. I'm just saying it's just different. I just think that it's different.
You said that you had teams like Nebraska, like
Because Nebraska
Minnesota's
stinks.
good too. Like
no, because
everyone's
stink.
good.
Nebraska stinks. Who did Nebraska lose to in the non-conference last year? They lost to somebody
North
terrible. Dakota. Yeah, I was gonna say they lost to some bad teams in in basketball.
So does every team. Like every team has. No,
not every team.
Kentucky
is
lost to St. Peter's. Like
Nebraska was 10-22, 4-16 in the league. They lost to Western Illinois in their season opener. They lost to
Western Illinois was good. Don't even know. We played Western Illinois. Western Illinois is a good team. The thing is, like the normal. I'm not saying you're a normal fan. You obviously know way more about basketball than the normal fan. But I'm saying like everyone in the Division I basketball, all you have to do is play your best basketball for 40 minutes to beat someone. And if you have a well-disciplined team, anyone can beat anyone on a given night. The Lloyd majors are a little like the fucking I don't even know their conference names at this point, but like the lower major schools, like yes, it's a lot more difficult to beat some of these powerhouses, but mid majors, dude, like mid majors are really fucking good. Like all those guys are like heavily recruited out of high school. They're very talented players.
I mean, you don't have to convince me of any of this. I'm just looking at Nebraska's roster right now, and I'm saying this team was not very good.
What do you mean?
They're not looking at their roster. I'm looking at the scores that they put up. At the end of the day, like, okay, yes, can they play?
They had Hooper. They had a guy that drafted in the first round. Like, what do you mean?
Okay, they had one guy get drafted in the first round. Why didn't they play better ball?
They did. They figured it out.
They went 10-22. They went 10-22 and 4-16 in the league.
They beat Wisconsin on Cedar Night when they were fucking to win the Big Ten outright. They lost. You know how hard that is to do?
Yeah, and then I watched that same Wisconsin team 2 weeks later get beat by Iowa State. Like, I don't know. Maybe they weren't playing that good a ball at that time of year.
That's my exact point. Like, teams can beat anyone. Like, you're downplaying, like, Nebraska. Nebraska had very talented players. They have a good coach. Like, they just didn't figure it out. But that doesn't mean they're a bad team.
Well, unfortunately, that would hold a lot more water if they had figured it out at any point in like the last however many years.
I just don't agree with downplaying like teams in certain leagues, like especially Power 5 conferences, because if you're in a Power 5 conference, you're a very solid basketball team.
All right, that's fair. But at the end of the day, I'm still saying Nebraska is not a good basketball team.
Go ahead. They still beat fucking who they beat. They beat Purdue too, didn't they? What was the other team they beat?
Yeah, they won 3 games in a row to end the season against Penn State, at Ohio State, at Wisconsin.
Yes, dude. Yeah, what are you talking about? They weren't a good basketball team. You know
how random is that though? That they were 1-16 in the league and then won 3 road games in a row to end the season
at one of the 3 hardest places to play in the Big Ten.
Yeah,
Penn
Their
State
only
is
other league
literally
win was against Minnesota.
Penn State is so hard to win at. The fact they did that and then they went around and beat Ohio State at Ohio State. They went around and beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And you're telling me they're a fucking bad basketball team.
Well, I would feel encouraged for Nebraska's prospects coming into this year if they had like any of that team back, but I don't think that they do.
They do. They have a
CJ Wilcher, they have him back.
CJ Wilcher and the
Derek
lefty
Walker.
shooter. Derek
Yeah,
Walker, lefty shooter up and down.
Kasai. Yeah.
No, Talakana.
Yeah, Kisei. Taminga. Or Tominaga. I don't know.
Tominaga, yeah. I didn't know that was his first
the
name.
one
Yeah,
from Japan.
Tominaga.
Yeah, the one from
Yeah.
Japan. Yeah. I don't know. I'll believe that they're gonna finish better than 14th in the Big Ten when I believe it or when I see it.
The thing is, you put them in any lower major or mid-major conference, they're going to be up there with almost winning the conference.
Well, I mean, this obviously is a relative discussion. Like I'm talking relative to the Big Ten, not to all of basketball.
What
in
are you,
general.
fucking Albert Einstein? What are we talking about relativity?
Well, what are we talking about? Are they a good
I don't
Big
know
Ten
what we're
team?
talking
They went
about at
4
this
and
point.
16. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, would they beat Kennesaw State? Yeah,
No,
because
yeah,
I
not
can
what I'm
see
talking.
on their
Kennesaw
schedule
State's a
that they
lower major
did beat
school.
Kennesaw State.
That's a
That's
low
what I'm
major
saying.
school.
But then
Your
then they got
fucking
smashed by
middle
Creighton.
school team could beat them.
Okay, well, let's not go that far. That might be a stretch.
I'm just
There was a
saying.
time when those guys at Kennesaw were a star on their team too.
Sounds like something Coach McCaffrey said. This is the funniest thing ever. Every time we would play like these like bye games, bring the teams in just to kick the living shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
We do a scouting report, always 2-day prep. We come in first day, and we get our scouting report. Coach walks in. It's happened every single time we play one of these teams. He looks at the board. He points to all these guys. He goes, "All these guys now, they all can go. They all on Division I scholarship." And that was it. And then we started watching film. Said it every time. So we're like, I mean, we get it. Like we know they're on Division I scholarship, but
How many times did you ever watch their film and you were like, "Oh shit, okay"?
the funniest thing is when we played these teams, and a lot of these teams have like 16 new guys every year because
Right.
everyone just like transfers out.
And goes to Division II where they're like, "I want to go and be the star of my team again."
Yeah. So like when we watch film with these guys, and we're watching like high school like Ball is Life mixtapes.
Mhm.
Like
Oh,
nothing to do
geez.
with like we're like, what are we doing? Like this is like recorded on a little like disposable camera on these highlight films.
I feel like at
Like
this point, going somewhere like that is almost like going to junior college. It's like, can I go and ball out here, and then can I go and play somewhere bigger? With the transfer portal and the ability to transfer one time.
I think it will shift to it's almost like a different like league almost now.
I think that they should. I think it would be smart for them to drop some of those teams out of Division I, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of. I think division like Power 5 teams need to stop playing them. First off, we're paying $60,000 to $70,000 just to beat the living shit out of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
send
probably
them
a
on their
pizza.
way.
Probably giving them a pizza too. Yeah.
Pizza with no sauce or toppings, just dough, no box.
Just dough and just 60,000. Here you go.
Yeah, 60,000 in cash.
I want in a briefcase, or like in a duffel bag.
No
in
duffel
an
bag
Iowa.
They just throw the cash at them. Pick it up.
Make it rain. They just make it rain.
I always thought that was a wild concept, though. We bring teams in.
It's like, have you ever seen like they do the drops like at a game where they'll have the little like blimp that floats around and they'll drop it? Yeah, that's how they get their money. But no, that is a weird concept that they do that. It's honestly kind of fucked up. It's actually super fucked up if you really want to like go to the very like nitty gritty of it. But I mean, it's all about the schools being able to, fund their athletic department. And then a lot of times too at schools like that, the athletic department is how you get kids to go to school there. So
yeah, I always thought though, like this is just a prime example of how shitty athletic programs are with their budgeting and money. I mean, we saw it firsthand with COVID. Everyone had to cut sports because they go year by year with their money. But I mean, you're paying let's say there's 4 to 6 buy games out of the year. I mean, that's 60 to 80,000, depending on the negotiation. Times that by 4 to 6. That's a hefty price just to get 4 to 6 wins on your schedule.
Yeah,
I always thought that's the most bizarre thing in the world. Like,
usually it's more than 4 to 6 too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably like.
I mean, it's probably closer to 10.
6 to 10. Yeah, it's probably 8 to 10.
I mean, you're probably pushing close to where you're spending $500,000 on that.
Yeah.
Well,
it makes no sense to me.
At Iowa, when you got $100 million to spread around, man, you got to spend it somewhere.
But we want to complain about players getting any source of income or coaches.
Well, I'll tell you where these buyouts where this money has to go. I mean, what good is making $100 million in media rights if you can't spend $41.5 million of it on coaches' buyouts, like what Auburn has done over the last 3 years, firing Gus Malzahn and Brian Harsin? They also have to pay $5 million to buy out their defensive coordinator, or they did when they hired Harsin. They had to buy him out, which was $5 million. So then between Gus, Kevin Steele, and Brian Harsin, they have paid $41.5 million in buyouts in 3 years. That is fucking insanity.
I'm not shocked at all, though. I'm shocked to the extent that schools just keep doing this. They keep doing it.
Why do schools do this? They act like they don't have any leverage at all. Like, there's millions of coaches, Like, if a coach is like, millions. Yeah, you have to give me this buyout for me to sign this contract, I'd be like, well, fuck you. We're just going to go we're going to find another coach. There's a lot of other coaches who can do the same thing that you will.
I think, I don't know. The more I think about it, the era that we are living in now is you want things right now, right? Like, from off the court to on the court. You want to win right now. You want to develop players right now. You don't want to wait. You don't want to rebuild. You want everything right now. So boosters, like, they're going to do whatever they want. If a coach isn't doing a job in the first half of the season, just buy their contract out. Fuck it.
I just don't get it, dude.
I mean, look at Indiana basketball. They've gone through Tom Crean, Miller.
How does that solve a problem? That's why I'll never understand.
It doesn't. Because first off, like, you see teams coming in or coaches coming in, and they recruit all these guys. And sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years for these guys just to develop and be able to be put on the field or court. And they don't have the time to even have the chance to create that team atmosphere for them to even contribute to the team.
Well, and if you're a new coach too, and you don't have, say you're going somewhere where you don't have a ton of NIL or something like that, how do you make a splash in recruiting? It's not like you can go and build like relationships and get people in fast enough, especially with like how the timetable is now, like you really got to be a damn good recruiter right now, especially in college basketball, to be able to get players at the level you need to be competitive year in and year out. Like, damn good. And your staff has to be damn good recruiters. If all of them.
I mean, all you need is a bag of cash. Nothing changed. Nothing has changed with recruiting, in my opinion, though. Is
that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying happened for you to go to Iowa? They had the bag of cash? Coach McCaffrey had the bag of cash?
If they did, I would have already announced it when I graduated that it happened.
They were giving it to you the same way that they were giving it to their buy teams, the buy game teams.
Think about that, though. Like, we're paying these teams, dude, it's just a wild concept. When there's 15 guys on a team, like, what the fuck?
And those guys don't get a damn thing. They don't get a damn thing. We don't get
a damn thing from that. Like, how crazy is that? Like,
that's the craziest part. Those guys don't get a damn thing. Yeah, they get to go to school, but they also have to miss like 6 weeks of school to go on this tour.
That's the that's the counter the argument I hate when people say, oh, they get tuition paid for. Dude, first off, the college experience all right, two things. One, when you commit to a school, the athlete's not committing to that school for academics. They're going for basketball or football or whatever sport they want. And I forgot my second point. I don't even know what were we talking about before?
Oh, just about the guys missing all the school.
Oh, and then the second point, it's not even the same academic experience as a normal student. If a college athlete wants to come to college and they want to work really hard at academics, which is perfectly fine, they can't sign up for the same exact classes as a normal student. They can't be a medical student. Like, they can't do all these things that a normal student can do. It's not even the same field. It's not possible with their schedule that they have. They have a full-time job already, which a lot of students do, but they also have like a lot of more time commitments as being an athlete and being around that, atmosphere in college, that they can't, sign up for classes at this certain time slot. And as anyone that's been through college know how hard that is to even sign up for a class, to create a schedule with a time slot. Imagine like getting that like shrunk down into only 3 hours of the day. You can only schedule a class. It's not possible to be even close to as the same as a student.
I've known a couple Iowa State football players who were engineering majors, but they're like some of the smartest people that I've ever interviewed or anything like that. Like people that you're like, these guys are next level intelligence type of people, that they have
like
that
outliers.
capacity. Yeah, I would say like those are outliers for most college athletes, just like generally. I think if you would look up and down of most college athletes, I don't think that most of them would be guys that are going to go and get 4.0s in like electrical engineering, or something like that.
Right.
Like that, yeah. But no, I mean, the buy games thing is super fucked up. But that's what makes it even more funny. Like when someone loses one of those games, it's like you paid those guys to come all this way
beat your ass.
to beat your ass. Yeah, yeah.
That's what's crazy of it all, and that happens like every year.
It happens a lot.
Year. It's gonna happen next week.
Oh
like,
yeah,
someone's gonna lose.
And you know who's gonna tweet about it? John Rothstein's gonna tweet about it. It's gonna be the epitome of brutality. That's what he says every time.
I'm gonna tweet the shit out of the games this year. Be like, I'm gonna like heckle the fan bases and stuff, the teams that lose.
The
be
officials.
Like, yo, not that. Well, I'm gonna be crazy on the officials this year too, but be like, yo, you guys just paid a bag to get your ass beat. Like, ha 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 ha. Like, just wild shit. Like, I'm just gonna go all in this year.
If the
I'm
player,
gonna email the
win,
ADs. Like, I'm gonna email coaches.
Here's what should happen. If the players go and win the game, they should get the money for going to the game.
What do you mean?
Like for what they got, what the school got paid to do the buy game. If like, okay, say whatever, Alabama State goes to Minnesota and won, and they got paid $60,000, the players should get a portion of the $60,000 for winning the game. That's what I think.
See, I look at the opposite way, because these schools are basically fundraising. Like they have to do this to stay afloat, right?
Mm-hmm.
To even like play in league games and travel for league games. I think it should be looked at the opposite way. The teams that are paying these guys, they're the ones that are more important here, because the other guys are doing what they should. Like, they're trying to fundraise, they're trying to provide for their program, but the guys that are like the Power 5 schools, the guys that are creating a lot of revenue for these universities, fuck it. Like, what are we doing here? Like, let those teams figure out their own way.
Right.
Like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
But they don't want to play each other because they might lose to each other.
Dude, it's like the softest thing. I hate that argument.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, that's what every coach believes in, and I hate it. Like, go play teams in mid-November that are gonna challenge you.
I mean, it's just like they tried to make this whole thing in the mid-major leagues where like a whole block of games would be blocked out in February, and like all the leagues would agree to a scheduling agreement where in late January they would like match them up, based on RPI or based on whatever strength of opponent, to try and make it to where they could get a bunch of really good games and make it like a huge bracket busters event. And the coaches said no. all the commissioners and everything left it up to the league's coaches, and the coaches said no across like 6 different mid-major leagues.
I think
Which at
I'm
the
saying,
mid-major level is especially stupid because it's like, what the fuck? You need wins to get in the tournament. Why would you not
yeah,
try and do something that's actively going to get you quad 1, quad 2 wins? You know,
I think also too, to kind of go off that, I think the aspect of some of these high major schools wanting to continue to play these bye games, they also want like a reason why they're doing what they're doing and not allowing college athletes to continue to capitalize off like them being employees. Like they want, okay, well, we're going to play this school because one, it's going to give us a win, and two, we're providing, funds for this school to continue to stay afloat, which is the stupidest thing ever. But that's literally an argument that they're going to have. So I feel like it's literally a reasoning for them to continue to do this because that provides them those two things that I said. But I mean, at the end of the
let
day,
me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you think Iowa State and Iowa should play Northern Iowa and Drake
yes, but
and
that's
go
different.
and do home and homes?
That's different. I would not home and homes.
So then should they pay Drake in Northern Iowa to come to Iowa City and Ames?
No. I think it should be an initial site. And this is an outlier from what we've been talking about, because those games are good for the state, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like those games should happen. I do see the other side of it because, okay, Iowa, they're gonna play like a Seton Hall or another Big East team instead of a UNI or Drake, which is better for their resume. Okay, that's great. If you want to have that argument, then take out the other bye wins or bye games that you're paying teams to come and you're gonna beat their ass. If that's truly your argument, then do it. Then show it. Don't be half and half, which is what a lot of schools are. And that argument that I don't know whether it was Iowa's AD or Iowa State's AD or both of them combined. That's the dumbest argument ever, that they said that they want to, play better schools or whatever.
I think Iowa was the one that wanted out of it, but I think that they just didn't want to renew the contract whenever it ran out, from what I remember.
Yeah.
If that's right. But then that became a whole thing with like that UNI and Drake came out and said, I mean, they were pissed, obviously, that they weren't gonna be able to play that game anymore. But I think both Iowa State and Iowa said, like, well, you guys are welcome to come to Ames or Iowa City anytime. But then those schools wouldn't do that without a return trip. If I'm remembering right, like this has been a couple years, obviously, but I think that that's correct. That's how that all worked. It's like they said it's like you guys can come to Ames or Iowa City anytime,
Yeah.
but we're not going to go to the Knapp Center or go to the McLeod Center.
Which I understand. So just put it on a neutral site like it was at Wells Fargo. Like I played in 2 of those. I thought it was we kicked the shit out of UNI, but I thought it was great because you're playing against kids you kind of grew up playing, especially if you're around the area that continue to go to like UNI or Drake, and you're a hometown kid like I was and went to Iowa. Like you're playing against guys, and you're around your family members, like a lot of Iowa fans, a lot of state of the Iowa people that came to those games, like the governor sitting courtside. Like, it's a cool experience. I thought that's like one of my most fun neutral site games was going to Wells Fargo and playing.
I agree. And I think too, it's good because it makes Wells Fargo feel more like the mecca of basketball in Iowa. That's the place. Like you want to go there and play ball. If you can go and play at Wells Fargo, like that's the biggest place you can go in the state of Iowa and play ball, And it's important, I think, to showcase our state's teams, even if it's like, okay, you're not going to play Drake and UNI. Why can't Iowa State and Iowa have it? Like, how cool would this be? You have it be, you play at Wells Fargo one year, Iowa State plays Nebraska and Iowa plays Creighton. And then the next year you go to Omaha or Lincoln or whatever, and you do something like that over there, or you do something in Council Bluffs, even something like that, like at the Mid-America Center. And you play a big game there with Creighton and Nebraska and Iowa State. Like that's a kind of a thing that would be cool,
Or even do like a mini tournament, like having Nebraska, Creighton, Iowa, Drake, UNI,
Iowa
I'm
State.
missing someone.
Yeah.
Iowa State, obviously, Iowa State. Like all those teams, and just have a little tournament every year. Do it. I mean, instead of playing these bye games early in the year, just do that.
It would make it more interesting. You'd get a lot of people to go to those games too. You could pack some
Yeah.
arenas doing that stuff.
Easily. Pack arenas, it looks good on schedules too because you're playing against solid teams instead of the dog shit teams that you're normally playing against at the beginning of the year. I think that makes the most sense.
All right. We do want to talk about Michigan State. The 4 players, I think there were 4 players suspended as well tonight after a scuffle. I don't even think that this is a scuffle. This is a jumping in the tunnel of this Michigan. I think he was a cornerback. The video is insane. First things first, why the fuck does the Big House, which is like the biggest stadium in America, have one tunnel leading to the locker rooms? I understand that this is an old building. We can't retrofit another tunnel into this 110,000 seat stadium.
I don't even know what to think of the whole thing because Penn State just played there and they had an issue with like players talking. Like, it just happened. Like this is
Right.
like
It seems
2
like
weeks
this
in a
should be
row.
something we're actively working to avoid. But I'm not blaming the Michigan guy. Why? Like, there's a whole team jumping this one dude. Like that's kind of sorry. It's like, what
If
the
I
fuck,
d-
guys?
The one thing I'll say about defending Michigan State, I'm not defending fucking assault because I think that's literally what happened, unless
Yeah.
I'm missing like another video. But it looks like the Michigan guy like came in and started shit because he was like the only one that ran into the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he threw a first punch and then they reacted or they just saw him talking shit and they jumped him. But it all could be avoided by all the teams at the end of the game, like go on one sideline, they wait, and then they go in like 5 minutes later, or they just fucking have a different like tunnel.
Just build another tunnel.
Like literally.
It's a huge, like I said, it's a huge building. Like, at no point in the 100 years that the Big House has existed, did nobody stop and say, hey, I think it might be a bad idea to have the teams running in and out the same tunnel. Like, that seems like a no-brainer. That seems like maybe the first day someone should have thought of that. That's what I don't understand. That's stupidity. That's the stupidity of college athletics thing at its fucking finest, because it's like, oh, it's tradition that we only have one tunnel. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's the stupidest shit I ever heard.
I tweeted a video. I quote tweeted, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but there's a lot of replies saying, "Well, it shouldn't matter. Like sportsmanship's key. Like you should be able to handle your emotions.
Get the
You're an
fuck out
adult."
of here.
First off, okay, I agree to a certain extent, but anyone that's played sports, they can't say they can come off a crazy rivalry game like that, especially in an atmosphere like that, and expect to not talk shit, expect to not handle the emotions. It is physically impossible when you're literally put right beside the players after the game. It's not going to happen where guys are going to respect each other.
Well, and especially in a situation where Michigan kicked their ass,
Right.
like Michigan State basically wasn't competitive. So it's like Michigan State's having a bad year. So you already know that their like tensions are high in that scenario, Then you get your ass kicked in a rivalry game. And now you got to go back to East Lansing, and now you got this guy chirping at you. Like, I don't know. And it's like, man, people can miss me with the sportsmanship.
That's so stupid.
Oh, that's bad sportsmanship. Get the fuck out of here, man. With some of the things that we celebrate in our society today, and someone want to sit here and tell me, oh, that's bad sportsmanship. Like, come on.
Those people are so soft that say that. What happened to society, dude? I feel like we are literally we should be running Charmin toilet paper, like all of us. That's how fucking soft we all are. Like, what happened?
Think what the cavemen would think of us. Oh, think what the people from like 1850 would think of us. They would think we're the softest people we would be the softest people they'd ever seen. They'd be like, you guys get water from a tap? Oh, you don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn and go out and work in a field? Man, must be nice.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm human. I complain about shit all the time, but I just feel like some people out there, dude, nowadays are like ungrateful. Like they complain. I don't know. Like, there's always something wrong in the world.
There's always something to be mad about. And it's like, and the thing that drives me the most crazy is it's not even just being like a little bit mad. You have to be like irrationally mad about things. You can't just be like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about that. You have to have, it's like, if you're going to have a stance, you have to be one side or the other. And there's no going in between. Like, one of the things that's been so funny to me, the whole thing with, like, I'm not going to talk about the whole thing with Elon Musk, Musk buying Twitter,
Yeah,
but
I was just gonna bring that up. I
there
was
is
just
this
gonna bring
one
that up.
aspect of it that I think is really funny. And it's about the whole verification process where he's going to, they're going to charge people
Yeah.
to be verified. I'm not going to lie. Of the things that he's talked about doing, I actually think that that might not be a terrible idea, because then to be verified, you have to be a real person who has gone through that process and is actively paying the money to do it. And it opens the door for them to be able to moderate those things being done by those accounts, because there's only going to be a certain number of accounts that's going to do it. And frankly, people are probably been lucky that some of these things haven't cost money to begin with, and if it's going to be $8, to me, it's like, I get $8 a month out of Twitter, in what I do. And I'm sure that there are people out there who maybe don't, but it's like, it doesn't take much for me to justify $8, to $8 a month to be able to do that, and to know that, yeah, you might actually be tweeting with a real person. And there will be ways around it, and there will probably be bumps to it, but I think that that's like not a bad idea. And people act like the fucking sky is falling,
Yeah.
talking about starting their own social media and things like that. And I'm like, get the hell out of here.
Then
With
go
all
do
the
it. Like,
right. And how many times does someone have to sit there and say, we're going to start a new social media site? And you know what? We're still on the same fucking social media sites that we have been for 15 years.
yeah.
There are people who have been on Facebook for almost 20 years at this point, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm not getting on Facebook anymore." Like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen that these things are going to go away. So people need to quit overreacting about them. It's like, you can be a little bit weary or leery of, like, man, what's Elon Musk going to do with this? Like, I think anybody can be leery of that in a scenario where you've got one person who's going to have final say in this huge company, like, that is what it is. But at the same time, I don't think that that means that your fucking life is being impacted by it really in any way at the end of the day, substantially.
That was a perfect example because I was gonna bring that up. I think just how people handle the situation in general. Like I hate talking politics, but dude, some people, man, like especially like the like whole president elections and shit. Like, oh, I'm moving to Canada if this guy gets elected. I like, bro, it's like shut the fuck up. Like, move to Canada then. Like, if you're that fucking soft, like it's just so bizarre to me how people
I
handle.
don't understand why anyone cares about that much. Because at the end of the day, I don't recognize them, like, what they do having that much of an impact on my day-to-day life at the end of the day. If you just don't worry about it, you probably will never even know if something's fucked up. Yeah, you might notice, oh, the gas prices are a little bit higher, or like they are higher, but it's like, if you don't sit there and think like, oh my God, I think the fucking world is ending, then, you know, you're going to be a lot happier. I feel like there's like I don't know, like a vacuum mind of where people get on the internet, and it's like you start to read a couple bad things, and then all of a sudden you think the fucking world is going to end like today, you know?
I don't think there's a single reporter that like Wall Street Journal, like New York Times, like Washington Post. There's not a single reporter that I like want to follow. Like no matter like what fucking party they follow. Like it's just so fucking crazy. Like
Because everything's so
everything,
depressing. Everything's so depressing.
bro, so
Yeah.
depressing. And then like comments like everyone's like the softest people in the world.
Every time that I read anything about a politician, I sit there and I say, I cannot believe that this fucking person got elected. It doesn't matter what party that they're on either
Yeah.
side of. I'm like, I can't believe that there was someone out there who said, yeah, this is the smartest person that I know. Most politicians, I'll tell you, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them, where you sit there and you're like, someone sat there and was like, yeah, I really want this guy to go and be my voice, you know? I don't get it.
Trying to
Though.
restrain myself because I don't like picking sides in politics.
I'm not
about
talking about anybody in particular. I'm just saying it's
No,
like
I know you're not.
it's just like there's just
It's
so
just
many
it's
times
tiring, dude.
yeah.
Like
It just
just
gets that's exactly what it is. It's exhausting. It's exhausting when you see people that are overreacting like that. And like you get on Twitter sometimes and it's like, man, I just want to have like a reasonable nuanced discussion, like
Right. Just have a respectful dialogue. That's the thing. It's not possible nowadays. You
the
can't say
other
one thing.
the other day during the game that some guy tweeted at me and he's like, or no, it was after the game. I tweeted about the officials in the first quarter. At the end of the day, Iowa State, the officials had no impact on the game. Iowa State didn't play well enough to win. Like, it is what it is. But this tweet, I fired this tweet off like 3 hours earlier. And he responds like, please, there was way more to why Iowa State lost the game, which again, like I had discussed that on my Twitter after that, but 3 hours later, completely out of context, this tweet made no sense for him to be responding to. And I said, you're responding to a tweet from 3 hours ago, like I just tweeted it. And he came back at me and was like, screw you, saying he was going to do all this different stuff and get off, or like saying he was going to get off the Cyclone Fanatic Patreon and like all this stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, and then he said it was because I was condescending. I was like, bro, like, what are you talking about? Why are you coming at me? Why am I the person here that you're directing your anger at because of the football game? Like, just get off the internet, bro. Just don't worry about it. It's just football.
People literally can't.
Why do people let this like affect their mood?
The thing I always love to bring up is like talking about how fucking soft people are. Like when I was on an interview and I was talking about the gift bags we got during COVID NCAA tournament. I was like, dude, this is ridiculous, which it was. And obviously there's a little satire in it too, because I was trying to be funny. And like I have like hundreds of people in my mentions, like this dude's so ungrateful, like this guy's so privileged, like what's wrong with him? Like, bro, like do guys just ever just relax and just enjoy life?
Well, I think too, it's one of those things where it's like, you didn't ask to get that. If you hadn't gotten it, it's not like you're going to be like, what the fuck? Where's my gift from the NCAA?
Right.
It's
when
like
people are like, you signed up for it. Like, you just be grateful. You get what you get. I'm like, what? Bro, people are crazy these days.
It's like you show up and they've got mini deodorant for you. It's like those are objectively funny things for them to put in a gift bag. It's like
objectively funny.
Yeah, it's like this
being
is the
funny
dumbest,
about it.
Yeah, it's the dumbest like bunch of shit to give. It's like, thanks NCAA, we appreciate it. I guess. Like I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this?
Bizarre to me, just how anything's taken out of context these days.
It's funny too, because anytime like we go to bowl games, they'll have gifts for us and shit. And every time we're like, I just sit there and I'm like, why? Like, whose idea was it? They're like, this is the thing, this is what we're gonna give them. It's just like, all right, thanks, I guess. I'm never gonna use this. I'm never gonna use this. All right, man. We'll talk to you next week. We'll talk about some more basketball. I'm sure we'll find plenty of other things to talk about. Have a good one. Thanks everybody for listening. Peace.